lecture on the book of Daniel. The main text starts from Daniel chapter 11. The title is the War Between South and North. First, the war between Persian and Greece, verses 1 through 4. The second, the war between South and North. The war occurred between the kings of the South and the North, verses 5 through 45. Here are 11 self-points under the second main point. First, the power of the king of the South declined after making an alliance with the king of the North, verses 5 through 6. Second, the king of the South defeated the king of the North, verses 7 through 8. The king of the North returned after preparing for a war, verses 9 through 10. Fourth, after victory, the South became arrogant, verses 11 through 12. The cruelty and invasion of the king of the North, verses 13 through 16. 6. The king of the South and North waged war against each other after failing to come to an agreement, verses 17 through 19. 7th, the king of the North deceived and plundered, verses 20 through 24. 8th, even those who ate the food of the southerner king attacked him. Verses 25 to 27. 9th, the king of the North persecuted the Jewish people. Verses 28 through 39. The king of the South, this is 10th, attacked the king of the North. Verse 40. 11th, the authority and destruction of the northern king. Verses 41-5. Read verse 1. And as for me, in the first year of Darius the Mede, I stood up to confirm and strengthen him. The word "as for me" refers to the messenger. Chapter 10, verse 18. The verse also says to confirm him. Him here refers to the archangel Michael. In such a manner, God helped Michael. The Lord helped Michael through an angel. God then defeats the nation that is against his people. The Lord protects his people and cares for them. In this verse, the first year of Darius was around 538 BC. Verse 2. And now I will show you the truth. Behold, 3 more kings shall arise in Persia, and a 4th shall be far richer than all of them. And when he is strong through his riches, he shall stir up. 3 kings came out from Persia. The first king was Cyrus, and the second king was Cambyses. Cambyses was the son of Cyrus. Next, the third king was Darius Histaspes. In such a way, 3 kings will arise from Persia. It says that the 4th king will be even more prosperous. Undoubtedly, the 4th king came from Persia. He was called Xerxes. Xerxes. He was also called Ahasuerus. Verse 1. This king ruled from 485 BC to 465 BC. Ahasuerus will strike Greece. It was around 480 BC. Historically, Ahasuerus actually invaded Greece with million soldiers. Verse 3. Then a mighty king shall arise, who shall rule with great dominion and do as he wills. This verse states that a mighty king shall arise. The mighty king was Alexander of Greece. He reigned from 331 BC. Verse 4, and as soon as he was arisen, his kingdom shall be broken and divided toward the 4 winds, but not to his nor according to the authority with which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be plucked up. The great king here was Alexander. He died when he was 33 years old. After his death, the kingdom was divided into 4 parts by 4 different generals. The first general was Ptolemy. He was Ptolemy. The second general was Seleucus. The third general was Lysimachus. Next, the fourth general was Cassander. In such a manner, these 4 generals divided Greece into 4 parts. Verse 5. Then the king of the south shall be strong, but one of his princes shall be weak, and his authority shall be a great authority. Verse 6. After some years they shall make an alliance, and the daughter of the king of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement. But she shall not retain the strength of her arm, and he and his arm shall not endure. But she shall be given up, and her attendants, he who fathered her. Verse 5 through 45 talk about the war between south and north. The war was between the southern kingdom and northern kingdom. On the south of the Jewish nation was the Ptolemy dynasty. This southern nation was Egypt. On the north was Seleucus dynasty. This dynasty was in Syria. This nation was located on the north of the Jewish. The war occurred between the nation of the south and north from verses 5 to verses 45. In other words, the Seleucus dynasty of the north and the Ptolemy of the south waged war against one another. The nation of the north was Syria and the south Egypt. The conflict between them continued on. The king of the south of verse 5 refers to Ptolemy Philadelphus of Egypt. Ptolemy Philadelphus. This king from 285 BC to 247 BC ruled Egypt in the south. The king of the north was Antiochus II of Syria. And these two kings started a war. However, few years later, they made an alliance. The king of the south sent his daughter to the king of the north. The daughter of the king of the south was Berenice. She was sent to the king of the north. The north and south attempted to forge a unity. They tried to compromise. Verse 7. And from a branch from her roots one shall arise in his place. He shall come against the army and enter the fortress of the king of the north, and he shall deal with them and shall prevail. Verse 7 talks about the king of the south. The princess had a younger brother. Berenice's younger brother became Ptolemy III. The third invaded the north. Verse 8. He shall also carry off to Egypt their god with their metal images and their precious vessels of silver and gold, and for some years he shall refrain from attacking the king of the north. Ptolemy III invaded Syria in the north. He carried off to the north metal images and precious vessels of silver and gold. Historically, he took 4,000 talents of gold from the northern nation. He also took 2,500 idols. Verse 9. Then the latter shall come into the realm of the king of the south, but shall to it. Next it says, the king of the north shall invade the king of the south. The king of the north here refers to Seleucus Corlinicus. Seleucus Corlinicus. This king of the north invaded Egypt in 240 BC. Verse 10. His sons shall wage war and assemble a multitude of great forces, which shall keep coming and overflow and pass through, and again shall carry the war. The sons of the north invaded the south. The sons here was Seleucus the Third. Seleucus the Third. Seleucus the Third went down to the south and started the war. Verse 11. Then the king of the south, moved with rage, shall come out and fight against the king of the north, and he shall raise a great multitude, but shall be given into his hand. The king of the south moved with rage. He was Ptolemy Philopator. Ptolemy Philopator. He fought against the king of the north. At that time, the king of the north was defeated by the king of the south. This happened during 217 BC. Verse 12. And when the multitude is taken away, his heart shall be exalted, and he shall cast down tens of thousands. Here it is noted that his heart shall be exalted. The king of the south became arrogant. He was Ptolemy Philopator. This king was eventually defeated because of it. God blesses those who are humble, but destroys those who are arrogant. Proverbs chapter 18 verse 12. 2 Peter chapter 5 verse 5. Matthew chapter 11 verse 25. Verse 13. For the king of the north shall again raise a multitude greater than the first, and after some years he shall come on with a great army and abundant supplies. The king of the north prepared a great army greater than the first, and invaded the king of the south. The king of the north was Antiochus the Third. Antiochus the Third. Antiochus the Third invaded the king of the south. During that time, the king of the south was Ptolemy the Fourth. This was 205 BC. Verse 14. Rise against the king of the south, and the violent among your own people shall lift themselves up, in order to fulfill the vision. It says, many shall rise against the king of the south. The verse also states that the violent among your own people lift themselves up. Here your own people can be seen as the Jewish people. Some of the Jewish people will become hard and cruel. They eventually started a riot. Some of the people with evil intentions participated in the riot. However, they were unsuccessful. Verse 15. Then the king of the north shall come and throw up siege works and take a well-fortified city. The forces of the south shall not stand, or even its best troops. The forces of the south were not able to stand against the army of the north. Verse 16. But he who comes against him shall do as he wills, and none shall stand before him. And he shall stand in the glorious land in his hand. He shall stand in the glorious land. The glorious land points to the Jewish land. This symbolizes the persecution and oppression from the king of the north, as well as evil forces against the true church. This teaches us that evil forces will persecute the church. Verse 17. He shall set his face to come with the strength of his whole kingdom, and he shall bring terms of an agreement and perform them. He shall give him the daughter of a woman to destroy the kingdom, but it shall not stand or be to his advantage. It says, he shall set his face to come with the strength of his whole kingdom. He refers to the king of the north. The king of the north was Antiochus III. Antiochus III, with the strength of his whole kingdom, the king decided to conquer Egypt. This happened from 198 BC to 195 BC. He shall bring Antiochus brought terms of an agreement with the king of the south. In verse 17 it says, he shall give him the daughter of women. Based on the verse, it is noted that he shall give him the daughter. The name of his daughter was Cleopatra. Cleopatra was the daughter of Antiochus. Cleopatra became the wife of the king of the south. In the future, Cleopatra went against her father with the king of the south. So the plan of the king of the north to destroy the south was unsuccessful. In other words, he was not able to destroy the south. Verse 18. Afterwards he shall turn his face to lands and shall kill them, but a commander shall put an end to his insolence. He shall turn his face to the coastlands. This means that the king of the north will attack the coastlands. However, the king of the north failed. This happened on 190 BC. The Roman general Lucius Scipio appeared during that time. Lucius Scipio defeated the king of the north. The king of the north was Antiochus III. The Roman general was Magnesia. In Magnesia, the Roman general defeated the king of the north. In other words, the king of the north attacked the coastlands. The general appeared. He defeated the king of the north in Magnesia. We will continue our lecture from Daniel chapter 11, verse 20. Read verse 20. Then shall arise in his place one who shall send exeter of tribute for the glory of the kingdom. Verse 20 notes that then shall arise in his place. This person was Seleucus the Fourth. Seleucus the Fourth. Seleucus the Fourth died a little after. He was killed by Heliodorus. Heliodorus poisoned Seleucus the Fourth. Verse 21. In his place shall arise a contemptible person to whom royal majesty has not been given. He shall come in without warning and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. Success. He was Antiochus Epiphanes, the king of the north. He was a contemptible person. He obtained the kingdom by flatteries. He was good at deceiving others. He was an evil person. He symbolizes the Antichrist. He persecuted the Jewish people in many ways. Verse 22. Armies shall be utterly swept away before him and broken, even the prince of the covenant. The prince of the covenant refers to the nephew of Antiochus Epiphanes. He was the nephew of Antiochus Epiphanes. Verse 23. And from the time that an alliance is made with him, he shall act deceitfully, and he shall become strong with a small people. The king of the north made a false alliance and stole from the young king. Antiochus Epiphanes deceived the Egyptian king. He plundered from Egypt. Verse 24. Without warning, he shall come into the richest parts of the province, and he shall do what neither his fathers nor his fathers' fathers have done, scattering among them plunder, spoil, and goods. Antiochus Epiphanes made many allies. He had to hand out many riches to make such allies. He gave them riches and made his allies. Verse 25. And he shall stir up his power and his heart against the king of the south with a great army. And the king of the south shall wage war with an exceedingly great and mighty army, but he shall not stand, for plots shall be devised against him. The king of the north attacked. The king of the north was Antiochus Epiphanes. He invaded Egypt at that time. It was 169 BC. Eventually, Egypt lost power. Verse 26. Even those who eat his food shall break him. His army shall be swept away, and many shall fall down slain. Based on verse 26, Ptolemy the seventh will be betrayed by his own people. Ptolemy was betrayed by his subjects. This is Ptolemy the sixth. Verse 27, and as for the two kings, their hearts shall be bent on doing evil. They shall speak lies at the same table, but no avail. It says that the two kings shall be bent on doing evil. They shall speak lies at the same table. The verse also notes that they shall not be successful. This was a pact between Antiochus Epiphanes, the king of the north, and the Ptolemy VI, the king of the south. However, they were not successful. Verse 28, and he shall return to his land with great wealth, but his heart shall be set against the holy covenant, and he shall work his will. Verse 28 says that the king of the north shall be set against the holy covenant. This means that the king of the north will hate the Jewish. He will persecute them. Verse 29, at the time appointed he shall return and come into the south, but it shall not be this time. The king of the north invaded the south. Verse 30, for ships of Kittim shall come against him, and he shall be afraid and withdraw, and shall turn back and be enraged and take. Refers to the west of Mediterranean. It points to Rome. Because of the request of the Egyptian king, the Roman fleet came. When the Roman fleet came, the king of the north retreated. The verse also states that pay attention to those who forsake the holy covenant. This means that the king of the north will come to Judah and slaughter the Jews. In addition, the king of the north will desecrate Jerusalem. Next, some Jews will forsake the holy covenant. Verse 31, forces from him shall appear and profane the temple and fortress, and shall take away the regular burnt offering, and they shall set up the abomination that makes desolate. Here it says the forces from him shall appear. Forces refer to the corrupt priests. Forces point to priests who were corrupt and Jewish. In such a way, these people took away the regular burnt offering. They profaned the temple. In the last part of verse 31, it is stated that they shall set up the abomination that makes desolate. This means that the worldly power will go over the church. It is saying that the power of nations will control the church. Verse 32, he shall seduce with flattery those who violate the covenant, but the people who know their God shall stand firm and take action. It is saying that Antiochus Epiphanes will make alliance with the Jewish people who betrayed the covenant. The king of the north used an evil scheme in order to bring such Jewish people to his side. Read verse 32 again. He shall seduce with flattery those who violate. People who know their God shall stand firm. It says that the people who know their God shall stand firm and take actions. A believer who truly knows and loves God will keep his faith until the end. He will not compromise the truth, but press on, always prepared to martyr based on the plan of God. The believer will also keep his faith. He will be courageous because he relies on God. The Lord will help him. He will be victorious through the power of God. 1 Samuel chapter 17 verses 45 to 49. In history, Matthias of Judah, Matthias and his son Judas, being courageous, fought against the king of the north. Matthias and Judas were leaders of Judah. Therefore, they fought of the north. We will continue our lecture on chapter 11, verse 33. And this verse talks about the wise among the people. The wise will teach many people. However, even the wise were plundered by the king of the north. They were persecuted and they stumbled. Verse 34, when they stumble, they shall receive a little help, and many shall join themselves to them. They received a little help, but it was not too helpful. They only received a little help. Verse 35, and some of the wise shall stumble, so that they may be refined, purified, and made white, until the time of the end, for it will await the appointed time. Purified during their trainings and persecutions. A believer can be refined through trials. His faith will grow in terms of skill and power. Verse 36, and the king shall do as he wills. He shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak astonishing things against the God of gods. The king exalted himself. The king, as I noted earlier, refers to Antiochus Epiphanes. He was the king of the north. He called himself a god. He claimed to be a god. He was arrogant. He was hard and violent. Verse 37, he shall pay no attention to the gods of his fathers, or to the one beloved by women. Here, women symbolize the saints. The Antichrists will ignore and persecute the believers. In other words, the king of the north will persecute the believers. Here, women symbolize the saints. Verse 38, he shall honor the God of fortresses instead of these, a God whom his fathers did not know. The king of the north shall honor the God of fortresses. He will make his power and authority his God. In other words, the king of the north relied on his authority and his power. He relied on money as well as power of the world. Verse 39, he shall deal with the strongest fortresses with the help of a foreign god. Those who acknowledge him he shall load with honor. He shall make them rulers. It says here that those who acknowledge him he shall load with honor. It means that the king of the north will provide people with honor if they acknowledge him. He shall make rulers over many nations. Read verse 39. He shall deal with the strongest fortresses with the help of a foreign god. Those who acknowledge him he shall load with honor. He shall make them rulers. Verse 39 is saying that the king of the north will give evil forces many benefits. The king will provide them with more land in the world. In such a manner, he will help evil forces. Verse 40, at the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him, but the king of the north shall rush upon him like a whirlwind, with chariots and horsemen. Verse 41, he shall come into the glorious land, and tens of thousands shall fall, but these shall be delivered out of his hand. The glorious land here refers to the land of Judah. This verse talks about Edomites and Moabites and Ammonites. These people lived outside of Judah. They lived near Judah. They also followed the king of the north. They were able to get away from danger. Verse 42, he shall stretch out his hand against the countries. Ultimately, the king of the north invaded the land of Egypt. The king of the north invaded Egypt. Verse 43, he shall become rulers of the treasures of gold and silver and all the precious things of Egypt. The king of the north took away treasures of gold and of silver from Egypt. Antiochus, the king of the north, plundered the treasures of gold and silver from the land of Egypt. Verse 44, but news from the east and the north shall alarm him, and shall go out with great fury to destroy and devote many to destruction. From the east will come. The east refers to Babylon and Persia. The east was part of Babylon and Persia. The news about riots from such places came. When the king of the north invaded Egypt, there were riots in both Babylon and Persia. The east was part of Babylon and Persia. Verse 45, and he shall pitch his tents between the sea and the glorious holy mountain. Here, palatial tents refer to temporal castles. Such castles are temporal. Next, it says that he shall pitch them between the sea and the glorious holy mountain. In other words, he shall pitch his tents between the sea and the glorious holy mountain. In such a way, the world are eventually destroyed. Read verse 45. And he shall pitch his tents between the sea and the glorious holy mountain, yet he shall come to his end with none to help him. It says he shall come to his end. This means that Antiochus Epiphanes will die in the end. Antiochus Epiphanes, the king of the north, eventually came to his end. No one was able to help him. Unfortunately, people who persecute the Church of God will be destroyed. Even if they are the king of this world or significant forces, God will eventually bring judgment against such forces. In the end, only the kingdom of God and believers will stand firm. Chapter 2, verse 44. Chapter 7, verses 18 through 22. The kingdom of God will be victorious in the end. They're victorious through putting his faith and hope in the everlasting kingdom of God. Here we will conclude the 12th lecture on the book of Daniel. Thank you.